You're listening to Reignite, a podcast about decisions with no right answers. I'm Frankie.
And I'm Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And joining us for this episode is TikTok sensation and my own lovely husband, Professor John Bradley Lestrange.
That's me!
Yeah,
Hello!
Is.
Welcome back.
It's so great to be back. I feel like I haven't been on this podcast in 2 years.
I mean, that's pretty much true. The last time we saw you, you were leading us through an adventure as a ragtag group of do-gooders in our own little TTRPG adventure.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
I still need to write the next part of that.
Please do.
Yeah.
It is a listener fan favorite. Well, we're so happy to have you back, John. What have you been up to? You kind of got a little runaway following on TikTok since the last time you were here.
Yeah. I now have a little under 300,000 people who listen to me shout about history stuff on the internet, which is, fun at times and also the worst at times.
Fair enough. And I just really want to know, what inspired you to start talking about history stuff on TikTok? Is it just because that's literally the thing that you do and know about?
I think it's Frankie's fault, actually.
It is a little my fault.
Frankie told me to get a TikTok, and I said, what'll I even do on it? Juggle and talk about dumb history stuff? And they're like, yeah. And then so I, started doing that, alternating between, circus stuff and talking about, cool history facts that I just thought were fun. And then people started making dumb comments about politics, and then I had to call them dumb on the internet, and then it just sort of snowballed from there.
Amazing. I do appreciate how hard you work to be correct, but also, you go after the idiots, but you are also very understanding of those who genuinely want to know, and you find the balance. And I'm impressed by it and constantly both entertained and educated by your work on TikTok. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the appreciation. It's much better than the death threats.
I just like sassing you on the internet.
I know. I know you do, sweetie.
It's fun.
So talk to us, John, a little bit about your relationship with Andromeda. Everyone who's heard you on the show before knows how much you love the original trilogy, gripes and all, like we all have with the original trilogy. But how do you feel about Andromeda, a game that's more oftenly more maligned than the original trilogy?
I love Andromeda. I think that a lot of people who gripe about Andromeda while singing the praises of Mass Effect, the original trilogy, they're wearing nostalgia glasses.
Yeah.
Anyone who's listened to this podcast knows how rough Mass Effect 1 was from so many perspectives. Mass Effect 2 was widely criticized by a phenomenal amount of fans for forcing Shepard to work with the white supremacist group. And 3 has one of the most hated endings in video games I've ever experienced. And then people are like, oh, but Andromeda is not Star Wars. Yeah, it's not a Star Wars space opera, shoot 'em up fighting the big galactic 20 billion year old villain. It's Star Trek. Get used to it. It's a different vibe. And it's the first game in this series. There's setup to do. It's gonna be a little rough around the edges. Get over it.
Yeah, I mean, you say everything that we've said on the show. I think also that Star Trek bit, which we've mentioned a bunch, is the really important focal part of it. If you're going into this expecting more Star Wars run and gun, there's some of that, but it's just not the same.
Yeah. I mean, also, the action and the gameplay mechanics, the jump jets were, a massive improvement. Your ability to switch between profiles and be a more well-rounded... I don't ever have to pick a play style. I can just change it up at any time my ADHD is no, now it's only guns. Or, now I want to just, literally telekinetically pick up dudes and throw them into other dudes. I can just do that on a whim, and it's great.
It is. I like that they took the generous hop that you had in Dragon Age Inquisition that was not very good unless you broke the game and went up walls you weren't supposed to, and gave you a real awesome jump in this. The jump dash is great. I just wish the platforming was as great as the jump was. Sometimes it's really fun, and then other times it's what was one of the temples we did recently where I was just I don't want to jump anymore. Please stop. Please stop making me jump.
There's certainly a learning curve on the jump jet because it does give you a generous boost, and some of the places that you are required to land are not very generous in their platform width, and so it's or it's just at the tippity top of your hop, and it's this is Fix it in 2, please. When you give us Andromeda 2.
Eventually.
So let's get into the mission that we are here for. With Gil's help, Ryder gets the coordinates for the Archon ship, but that's not all they find upon arrival. The Archon ship is tethered to one of the missing arcs, Arc Parchero. The Solarian arc seems deserted, and everywhere the crew turns, there are missing pods. Once they revive Pathfinder Reka, the mission is on the move. Working their way through a Ket ship, Ryder and crew observe the aftermath of horrific experiments, the result of Drax's missing scouts, and finally, Meridian. But they're not the only ones to find answers. The Archon makes his own discovery as well.
Yeah, this is 110% pure story bullshit. And I say that in a good way. We are now in the main narrative again. And I just don't understand how folks don't like this story. It just seems really cool. I love that there are still mysteries at this point. And at first I was worried that the Archon wouldn't have the gravitas of a good villain, but as we see here, they do. And also, yet we're still learning stuff, and they are probably still bigger bads. And I like that we're still kind of unfolding things at this point in the game.
Yeah, for sure. The Archon is a Saren kind of villain, right? He's the main bad guy that we're concerned with, but we know that he's not the ultimate bad guy. It's kind of following the path of the original trilogy in a way, but not in a way that feels like it's just copy-pasting.
It's a classic narrative arc. It's the same way that a Dungeons & Dragons campaign runs, or any kind of video game. You don't start off by throwing your party at the big, bad, ultimate evil guy. You get them a lower-level lieutenant to, cut their teeth against, and then you immediately throw them against the ultimate big bad evil guy in the next 30 seconds when they're low on health potions. Elden Ring.
See, because I haven't played Elden Ring, I was just thinking about Kingdom Hearts that whole time.
Also true, though.
I mean, not wrong.
Or any of the God of War games.
All true. One of my most popular TikToks in a long time is me doing a 2-screen reveal thing. And it's I just beat the boss. I have no health left. Oh, and phase 2 is starting. Because that's literally every boss fight in Elden Ring, is you barely get by the skin of your teeth, and then there's a new health bar.
Yeah.
We do have some check-ins this time around. Before we get into check-ins, John, I'm curious, because I like asking our guests this, who are not on specific companion episodes. Do you have a favorite companion in Andromeda?
It's so tough because they're all so good, and I'm sure you've explored all of the reasons why they're all great. I love Drac. I think if I absolutely, gun to my head, had to pick a favorite companion, it would be my space grandpa.
I love space grandpa.
Great.
Yeah.
He's pretty great. I mean, seems so out of character for you to pick the Krogan character as your favorite.
They deserve better.
Look,
they do deserve better.
Drac writes you an email about, hey, I heard you lost your dad. Here are some pictures of guns that always make me feel better. And it's so sweet.
And the email even tells you that some of them are very low res or have watermarks on them. Drac clearly just downloaded these off of really shady Google variants, and it's just here are guns that make me happy. Oh,
he's so precious.
He is very precious.
We must protect the space grandpa.
But also he starts off so gruff and you're an alliance and that means you're soft as shit, kid. And then by an hour later when you meet him again, he's just I love you and will protect you forever.
It is very accurate. Do you also have a go-to romance, since I know you can't romance Drac, which is sad?
It is sad, but also I'm not sure I'd want to romance someone who's 1,400 years old. I know that might be ageist of me, but I feel from 22 to 1,400 is a bit too much for me.
Yeah, that's a bit of an age gap.
Reconcile, yes. I usually romance PB. I just think that PB's fun. She's a weird, off-the-wall adventuring archaeologist who just, wants to discover new things. She's cute. I like her.
Yeah, that's a good a reason as any. I'm still undecided for anyone who's curious. I'm still flirting with everybody because they let me. Anyway, so we have some check-ins. Our first one is with Jal, and this is probably the sweetest thing he's done yet.
I love him so much.
Jal is a beautiful puppy, and we stan a king.
As a person who's one of my love languages is gift giving, I love everything about this scene because Jal, he's working his way through his imposter syndrome by showing appreciation for the people around him, and the way that he knows to do that is to give them gifts.
Yeah.
And it's not a like, please like me kind of thing. It's, I want to show appreciation and this is the way I know how.
Yeah, I do like how when this conversation begins, though, you kind of like burst into the room and like scare the bejesus out of him because he's trying to be secretive and like, it's like, ah! And it's just very funny. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. Did I scare you? And he plays it off like, no, I'm fine. Hi, hello. This is very funny.
So to run through the gifts, he asks if Turians like poetry.
I said yes immediately because I just want to see it happen. I just want to see it happen. And then immediately my writer, and I assume yours too, was like, and please let me know when you recite this to Vetra so I can be there.
But like when like the average Turian's favorite poetry is probably less like, shall I compare thee to a summer's day, and more like Charge of the Light Brigade.
Probably. But probably not Vetra, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Vetra is a little unconventional.
I think Vetra is kind of a romantic.
Yeah, I think so too. It's hard to gauge at this point in the game, but there's definitely like a Garrus-like dorkiness to her for sure.
Bioware knows what we like.
That's true.
So, writing a poem for Vetra, making a Rofjin for Liam.
Which is pretty cool.
And
especially because just earlier in the game, he had told Liam that it was like of pretty wild cultural significance and he wasn't allowed to wear it. And now it's just like, no, we've adopted him.
He's one of us now.
And my favorite is when he asks, do Krogans like knives?
The dumbest question ever spoken so far in this game.
And I encouraged him, just like, yes.
Yeah. Yes, they like knives. And he's like, I can make you one too, but it's mostly ceremonial. And I was like, oh, well, that's gonna be disappointing then if it can't actually be used in combat.
And then we get into the reason why he's doing this, which is the imposter syndrome that we all feel.
Yeah.
I know everyone on this podcast feels it.
What? Imposter syndrome? No.
I'm great.
Yeah, that was really convincing.
First of all, I'm married to you, Professor. And you, I've known for 14 years. So, neither of you can fool me. Second of all, it's really refreshing to have a character, a person, anyone, to be really upfront with their emotions. And we know that this is an Angara trait. They wear their hearts on their sleeves. That's just how they are. But because we, as players, come from a kind of closed-off society, it's really nice to just hear someone say, to you, I seem confident. To you, I seem like I know what I'm doing. But I have to be honest with you, I don't. And I have given up trying to keep up with my well-known, successful family. And I'm just out here doing my best.
Who, by the way, we have no idea who they are. Like, as far as Jal is concerned, his family is, like, famous and, like, well-known and prestigious. And I'm just like, I don't know any of their names. If you told me that if I couldn't name one of Jal's siblings, I would die in the next 5 seconds, I'd die.
Well, I don't know what their names are.
Well, Jal has a lot of siblings. I don't think you'd be expected to
I can't even name one of them.
But yeah, personally, I have not had to struggle with living in the shadow of a successful parent or sibling. But I have been a person who is trying to do the best with what they have and trying to make things happen. And when there are other people doing the same thing and being more successful at it, that imposter syndrome can really kick in.
For sure. I mean, I'm someone who's struggled with imposter syndrome literally my entire life. I have a brother who's 9 years older than me, who's now married and has kids who are grown, which is terrifying to me. But like my brother pursued a conventional past. He has a desk job at a company he loves. He's successful. He makes good money. He has a family. He has a house out in New Jersey, which is fine, I guess, if you like New Jersey. And then
I do. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't.
But see, it's funny because they're both in New Jersey. Anyway, but like,
please don't give away where we live.
I'm not going to give away your exact address. New Jersey's a big place. But no, my brother is definitely like on a conventional success track to like what society considers successful. Meanwhile, I am happily married, but like Sarah and I have no plans for kids. We'd like a dog at some point, and like we're pursuing jobs that are important to us, and like you can't measure the success of podcast production currently, at least in the same way you can measure like a job with, you know, benefits and a salary and all of that. And so I definitely feel inadequate in that regard compared to my sibling often, especially since Seth, my brother, doesn't understand podcasting. He doesn't listen to any of the shows. So like to him, he wouldn't know if I were successful or not, even if I were. And not that I'm not successful at what I do. It's just, again, it's a difficult thing. See, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And so like seeing Jal, a character who everyone's like, oh my God, it's Jal. Jal is great. He's the best. And then he comes to you like, yeah, I'm not the best. At least I don't think I am. I'm struggling with all this stuff, especially as Ryder, who is himboing his way through the galaxy, mine at least. It's really comforting because it's clear Ryder has no idea what they're doing most of the time as they're trying to figure it out.
We're all just out here doing our best.
Listen, my brother owns a house and has a doctorate and earns like 6 figures a year out in Washington State, and I'm mildly famous on the internet. Like, you are preaching to my very specific choir.
Yeah. But I like that Jal as a character explores that. I don't know that we get that in the original trilogy. I mean, I guess Caden maybe has a little bit of imposter syndrome, but like not really. None of the characters are relatable on this level. They're relatable for other reasons for sure, but like this is the first specific time we're really broached with imposter syndrome in any form in these games.
Yeah, Caden mostly has I once murdered a guy syndrome.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And like, I don't have that.
I don't either. It's true.
The thing with the original trilogy is that all of the companions are extremely qualified.
They're the best of the best.
The best of the best. Like, even Liara, even though when we first get her, she's not really experienced as a soldier, she can fight, she can use her biotics, but she's a professional in a different field. She's a professional in a different way.
Yeah.
And everyone in our crew...
They're just trying their best.
Just doing their best.
You go from like the best of the best where everyone is N7 caliber over to the island of misfit toys.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that might be why people bounced off this game so much. Like I, as a person who doesn't have an abundance of confidence all the time and does have imposter syndrome, seeing misfits making their way and doing their best is more relatable to me than people being the best of the best. There was plenty to relate to in the original trilogy, and I still love those games, but I think the characters are more relatable in this game. In a similar way that I think as Dragon Age went on, it became more relatable, right? There are definitely a similar kind of rogues gallery in Inquisition as well. And I think it's BioWare as a writing group, as a group of writers rather, being more aware of themselves and their audience and trying to make something feel more real and more lived in.
I feel like Andromeda improved in a lot of ways. Like, yes, there are still things that aren't great, but they did much better on inclusion of queer relationships. They did much better on, like, discussing pronouns. Like, there's still not there's still not a non-binary character, and they did make that misstep with the trans character we discussed back on EOS with Ashley. But there are steps here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also, like, and don't get me wrong, there's room for both of it. Like, we're getting a Wolverine game in a few years from the folks who made the Spider-Man game, and I want to be the best of the best. I want to be Wolverine and, like, explore that world. But I also like exploring worlds where not everyone is the best and perfect, and I think there's room for both. And I think I tend to gravitate more towards complicated emotional narratives because, you know, I'm me. And I think that this game does a better job of exploring those emotional narratives that even the original trilogy did.
Yeah, I agree. I could talk about Jal for days.
Yeah.
So maybe we should move on to Korra.
Yes, let's. We finally have the codes and the coordinates for the Asari Arc. We can go find it. We do remind Korra, though, that because of the sort of faux coordinates we found before, it could be a trap, it could be anything, like to be ready for anything. We don't know what, but we can actually finally, hopefully, get some semblance of answers now. And Korra is pretty gung-ho to just figure it out. Her idol, Sarissa, because she's convinced that Sarissa can help us get back on track, really move forward. It's hard to know if that's the case, but it's clear that that Korra is ready to go find her and figure out what the hell happened.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to note that this leads to Korra's loyalty mission. So we're getting to a point where we can do deep dives into characters based on their loyalty missions, which is exciting.
Yeah, I like those explorations of characters. It's some of my favorite stuff in Mass Effect 2. I think the loyalty missions in Mass Effect 2 are really interesting and really fun ways to deep dive on specific characters. And so I'm glad we're going to get something like that here again, too.
And they usually result in an important choice that means growth for either the main character that we're playing or the NPC that we're here to support.
Also, they get a fun new magic spell.
Yes, that's true.
They unlock level 6 of their
Loyalty abilities are dope.
From Korra, we can pop over to Vetra because Sid has a lead on a mission where colonists are going missing.
Yeah, this continues to make me like Sid a lot. I just love how snarky she is, and I love the dynamic between Sid and Vetra. This is like a level of sisterly love that we would have hoped to have gotten from Ashley in the previous trilogy and was hinted at, but we never just saw. And we see that here for all the world to see. And it's fun to see Vetra continuing to be protective of her sister, but like they clearly are used to this and going back and forth. And I'm guessing this also leads to Vetra's loyalty mission.
It does.
Vetra wants to protect Sid so hard, and Sid's just like, shut up, I'm an adult. And on the one hand, like, I'm with you, Sid, at a certain point. You know, mom, even faux mom, has to unclench and let go. But on the other hand, you have no idea what's like out here in this world. It will kill you in 5 seconds and then eat your heart out of your chest.
Yeah, it's fun to see Vetra wanting to protect her, but it's also fun to see Sid push back, and considering what we know, yeah, it's very much like, Sid, maybe just stay in your lane for now. For a little bit.
But on the other hand, like, Vetra, maybe teach Sid instead of just telling her, hey, no, stop that.
Yeah, for sure. I think Sid just wants to be part of something bigger, and in a way they are on the Nexus as part of the Andromeda Initiative, but they don't feel like the work they're doing is satisfying. They just read emails and pass them along.
It's hard to see results on a micro level in a bureaucracy the size of the Nexus. We are dealing with like the consequences of things that are happening on like several planets away, but like the Pathfinder mission, a microcosm of change. And it's very easy to see results there because it's usually written in the blood of Ket.
Yeah.
And their blood is green, I think.
I think it's blue.
It's not red.
It's not red.
It's definitely not red.
That's how you know they're aliens, guys. They don't have the good red blood.
Yeah, exactly.
From there, let's talk to Gil.
Yeah, so we're able to give Gil the method in which Venturav, I believe the name was able to communicate with the Ket, and Gil is going to help us use that technology to then also find the Ket and find the Archon.
Yep. I really appreciate that Gil says, at least here, physics still applies.
Yeah. I also love that once Gil like flips the switch, Ryder accidentally calls the Ket and they start yammering, and that's just big himbo move. Good job. Good job, Ryder.
That's a direct line to the people who want to murder everyone on this ship.
Yeah. It's funny also to listen to Gil worry about dying and like how horrible this mission is, and he's like, this could be awful, this could be this is so dangerous, and Ryder's like, only if we die. Otherwise it's fine.
I love it.
It's only a bad idea if it doesn't work. Right? The difference between brave and stupid is success.
110%.
For sure. Let's start the mission.
Yeah. So who did you bring with you?
I actually had a difficult time choosing because I didn't want to metagame.
Right.
I know, since I have played this game multiple times, that bringing Drac would result in a different conversation. But I wanted to think, like, would I bring Drac if I didn't already know what was going to happen? So I decided maybe I wouldn't. So I took Jal and Vetra because they're usually my default. I really like their banter. I like the respect that they have for each other. I also like fighting with them. They're just fun to fight with.
I like fighting with anyone that's not Cora Harper. I just don't like the way that she uses her charge ability to steal my kills.
Well, it's funny you should say that, John, because I brought Jal and Cora, and that logic the logic of not knowing the result is what made me pick them. I didn't bring Drac, who I like bringing on missions, because I knew this was the Solarian arc, and I know that there is some soreness and upset with good reason at the Solarians, and specifically a certain Solarian named Director Tan. So I just with the arc, and like while I do expect Drac actually to be more reasonable than like say Grunt from the previous game, who is all emotion and smash.
His primary emotion is smash, actually.
That's true. I thought it would be a good idea to leave Drac behind just in case things get heated with the Solarians or there's complications. It just made sense to me. And we'll get to later why I'm like, well, shit. Okay. This might not have been a good idea anyway. But so, yeah, I brought Jal and Cora, I think, because I'm more of a distance biotic. Cora works well with me. And I just like bringing Jal on every mission at this point. So he's one of my regulars, I think.
He's just great. We already covered this. So when we arrive at the coordinates, the Ket ship is tethered to the Solarian Ark Parchero. And Precious Callow, who gets up and says, anything you need, because these are my people. And I'm just like, oh, buddy.
Love Callow. He's great.
I love him.
Second best Solarian ever in a game.
I mean, this one never committed a war crime, so I'm actually going to call him the best Solarian.
Fair enough. That's perfectly reasonable.
Wait, when you said second best Solarian in the game, were you referring to Morden as the best?
No, actually, I was referring to Kirahi, my favorite, who I wish I could romance.
That's fair.
I actually can't prove that Captain Kirahi ever committed a war crime. I was thinking of Morden Solus.
Yeah.
So no, I rescind my statement. Yeah, Kirahi's best.
But y'all, what about Pathfinder Reika?
She's awesome. She's really cool.
Isn't she amazing?
Also, my notes have in all capital letters, female Solarian, because we finally met a female Solarian.
Well, she's the second we've ever met.
Well, true, but like she's what I assumed was going to be a major character, and we'll get to that. But like I was like, awesome. Also, the first female Pathfinder, right, that we've encountered so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a big deal to me.
Like other than me, Sarah Ryder, I guess.
Well, right. I meant in my playthrough.
Yeah, no. We find out that the Solarian Ark had been attacked, that we have been left a message to find Pathfinder Reika, and that the Solarians did a little trickery, a little sneaky sneak, and hid their Pathfinder among other Solarians with some false data.
Yeah, I mean, that's what the Solarians are best at. Like, their STG was the basis for the Spectres. They're the stealth and recon people.
Yeah, that's what they do. And I do like the immersiveness of this area. I also like how unreasonably creepy the empty arc feels. Even though they don't do anything to make it necessarily scary, it does feel unnerving with the power out and everything dark.
See, I think that they do actually do some things to make it feel kind of unnerving because, like, the power's out and there's some pods missing, but there's no real structural damage. There's no real signs of combat. And that is spooky as hell.
Yeah, it's a callback also to the Collectors, who often operated that way, just kind of sweeping in and taking stuff without much resistance.
I didn't think about that. That makes it scarier.
I kind of disagree about the immersion of this section. I agree that it's creepy. Agree there. I did not actually enjoy the, like, running back and forth of this whole section. This could have been a cutscene.
We discussed that, like the part where you're like scanning the pods to find which one's Reika, like that. This meeting could have been an email.
Yeah.
This really could have been a cutscene. I do not feel like I have gained anything by running to this console, running to that console, scanning this body, scanning the pods, activating another console.
That's legit. I mean, I think also BioWare does love their like new mechanic. In a similar, like the scanning is new to this game and they want you to be scanning. And so that's why something like this exists more than anything else, I think. In the same way that like that waypoint in Dragon Age Inquisition that would bring you towards items and like flash louder as you like pressed in the thumbstick. Like they like to utilize those new mechanics they add to games, which makes sense, right? You have a new thing, you want to show it off. But I agree, this ultimately probably could have been a cutscene and would have been just as effective because the most important part is when we wake up Reika and talk to her.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are all Solarians super tall, or is it just the femme ones?
I don't know. I feel like Morden was tall also, though, so I don't know.
I just don't remember, and every time I interact with a masculine Solarian, I just don't register their height, but for the femme ones, I do. And I'm like, wow, you're tall.
Could be the camera angle. I feel like
it
Cal
could also
is
be that
sitting.
I'm gay.
It could also be that you're gay. That's true. That's true.
It's also very true. And I also appreciate that masculine Solarians and femme Solarians look basically the same.
Yeah, their voices are a little different.
Their voices are different.
But that's really it.
There's no sex characteristics that we, as outsiders to their race, can see.
Yeah, it's for the most part, Krogan, at least based on how we could see them in the third game, also seem to be physically the same, male and female. Yeah, I mean, considering gender is a construct and not real, it makes sense that, or not makes sense, but I like seeing that. I like seeing that it's just, they look pretty much the same.
I just thought it was really interesting and could have been spawned from what the Solarians are based off of if we think of them as based off of lizards and amphibians.
Right, sure. I'm always curious why, when creating science fiction, gendered choices are made. Obviously, it's a thing that we think about more now than we did before. But even the Ungaran, facially, they look a little different. And like the mask ones are broader shouldered for the most part. But even still, like physically, besides the broadness, there's not a ton of difference there. And so it's interesting to see those design choices.
Were you able to find an answer?
I was trying. So no, according to the N7.world system, Solarian heights get up to about 6'5" is about the tallest that the average Solarian gets. But according to the scaling on the official BioWare Morden Sola statue, he should be about 6'10". But we saw Morden Solas as being like shorter than Shepard, who definitely wasn't almost 7 feet tall. So no, we have no good answers on this.
Okay.
BioWare refuses to give us good biological information on their things.
Maybe Sarah Ryder is just shorter than Scott Ryder, and that's why it's so noticeable.
I mean, Sarah definitely is. You notice that when you do character creation.
Yeah.
You're like 3-4 inches taller as Scott.
Maybe that's why I notice it.
Yeah, could be. Or it just could be because you're gay.
It could be because I'm gay, and I just notice a tall lady.
Just as much a possibility.
It is. But I love Reika. The second that she gets keyed into Sam, she's like, I'm back in the game. We're gonna fuck shit up.
Yeah. I like that we're pushing against stereotypes in this game of the races from the original trilogy. Like, not all the Solarians are skittish or, back channel planning bureaucrats. Some still are, but like they're, Kirrahe seemed like the exception to the rule. So did Morden in the trilogy. Whereas now it's starting to seem more and more like, no, we were just shown a perspective on the Solarians, but that's not actually true of them, which I appreciate.
I also like that once we get onto the Ket ship and we do that initial fight, Reika shows up with her team and she says there's too many Solarians missing, so we need to go find them and rescue them. And the squad that she brings are the people that she could cobble together, and one of them says, I'm just a history teacher. I don't know how to fight.
How do you feel about that as a history teacher, John?
I do know how to fight. I have a 2nd degree black belt. Like, listen, I feel it as a vibe because, like, I don't want to fight. And like, I feel like I'm just a history teacher. I should be able to use that as an excuse for most things. Like when Frankie, like why Frankie can't do math.
Yeah,
Because I'm
exactly.
gay.
Yeah, I should be able to say because I'm just a history teacher for similar types of things.
I'm a driving gay. I'm not a math gay.
Same. Big same.
Right?
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, Reika shows up with this cobbled together team, but is eager to find her people. She has no hesitance. We apologize that we can't help because we're on a separate mission, but we'll stay in contact and support in any way we can. But we have to take care of our goal first.
Also, a really cool thing about this is, Matt, as you mentioned, this is the first time writers meeting another Pathfinder while they're in the role.
Yeah.
And there's gotta be some kind of like hope to that, right? Because now Ryder knows I am not the only Pathfinder. I'm not alone anymore.
And I felt that too. There is this air of hopefulness in the dark with Reika, even in those early moments. She just seems so in control. And considering, as I mentioned many a time, we feel like we're kind of just bumbling through the galaxy, it was nice to see someone who kind of knew the vision, has a clear picture, because it's inspiring when you see someone like that.
It's a bit of a throwback to when those brief moments where we had Alec Ryder in the beginning of the game, because this is a fully trained, competent, adult Pathfinder who like knows their mission, knows their skills and capabilities, has trained fully with Sam, and knows like how to get shit done. Whereas like Ryder is literally a punk 22-year-old who was thrown into this role after nearly dying. So like, yeah, no, this is a very comforting moment having Reika there.
Fighting through the Ket ship, to me, is not really a standout. You're kind of fighting your way room to room.
Yeah.
And getting redirected as they're trying to, like, herd you to a certain place.
Yeah.
Since I have Zap now, I forget that I don't really have to do anything. I just have to turn Zap on and wait.
I enjoy using Zap as well. I've added him to my arsenal as well. But I mostly coordinate with Cora as she's charging in. Because I'm using Push and Singularity, and so I'm just doing biotic combos mostly. And Jal is just picking off people. Jal is very aggressive in this mission. Yelling a lot, like...
My favorite thing he yells is, "The Moshai sends her regards!"
Yeah, it's very good.
It was so great.
But yeah, I agree. I think the combat's fine. I think I'm more comfortable in the combat now. It still feels a little floaty to me in a way that I'm just not good at. I don't think it's anything inherently wrong with the combat. It's more my skill. Also, I'm stubborn and don't always get behind cover, and that's on me, not the game.
That's why I liked the backlash ability, because especially once it's fully upgraded, it has like almost no recharge time. It pops up almost immediately, and it redirects every single projectile sent your way. So I can just stand out in the open, walk towards guys with big lasers, and just like let them kill themselves off of my shield, drop it, and then just psychically hurl the next guy off of a cliff.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful battle mage build, and I love it.
Yeah, the combat does feel more fluid in this game than even the previous games, and which I do appreciate. When it works, it really works. But yeah, these rooms are all the same looking. Unfortunately, I think a problem with a lot of the Ket facilities is they kind of just look very samey.
They're prefab, yeah.
Yeah, which is fine. You know, plenty of other games do that. I'm more aware of that kind of repetitive design now than I was 10 years ago.
I think the standout of this mission is what we learn as we walk through the ship. For example, we find that there are a lot of empty stasis pods from Parchero, and it's because the Ket took a lot of members of Solarian leadership to perform horrific experiments on them.
It's looking like they're trying to do to now the Solarians what they've already done to the Angaran.
It's a common thing in like the Ket kind of thing. Like it reads very much like so many things from history. Horrific medical experiments are like a mainstay in the Japanese did it during World War II. The Nazis did it during World War II. The British did it during the Boer Wars. Like it's just a thing that people do. The Ket just have a very specific purpose behind it, which is it's their only way of reproducing.
We do stumble upon a group of scientists who are performing more experiments, and both Vetra and Jal get really mad. Jal yells out, "I will kill you myself." Vetra calls them all bastards. How did Cora react?
Same. Aggression. I think calling them bastards. And then they black out the window so we can't see the result of the experiment, and we can't get into that room, and we have to move on.
From there, we do walk into a stasis trap.
Yep.
So fun.
It just feels like the kind of thing that, like, you almost should have expected some kind of trap or ambush, because it feels like it's the cat's thing, but this particular stasis trap is not one that we've ever encountered in any kind of it is a stasis field that is directly tied to your life signs.
Yeah.
It only traps organic things.
I feel like we should have expected a trap because they kept closing doors on us and redirecting us. So it felt like they were leading us to a specific place. So we should have known that a trap was coming.
Anyone who played Project Overlord should have known that at the end of this tunnel of there's bad stuff there.
Just bad stuff.
Bad stuffs. I ran out of good word.
So we walk into this stasis trap and the Archon comes out of the shadows.
And monologues.
Looking like a weird angel. I don't like the Archon's design. I think that, one, BioWare leans way too much into humanoid aliens. Like, we're in space. We've got literally the Hanar and the Elcor that exist. Give me more things like that don't just look like people, right? Who, like, the bone thing as, like, armor, that's pretty dope. I don't know what species they got that from, but he's literally got a halo.
Yeah.
And, like, at some point in Andromeda 2 or 3, the halo is going to get broken and he's going to have devil horns. I guarantee you. We're going to break the Archon's skull circle and he's just going to be Satan. I'm calling it now, BioWare.
But yeah, this is a moment where we get monologued at by the Archon, who wants to gloat about trapping us and then also stabs us, which is uncalled for.
Yeah. He injects a biological transmitter into our bloodstream so that way he can figure out why we're able to interact with remnant technology. Something that he has not been able to do in the decades that he has been in the Helios cluster.
Yeah.
Once he walks away to go deal with something else happening, and Vetra says, "I'll kill you, you bony freak." Sam makes a suggestion.
Yeah, Sam says that because the stasis field only stays active while you're alive, he can stop your heart momentarily to disable the field and then restart your heart again. And Ryder gets to have some comment along the lines of, like, "I don't want to die again." I don't remember the exact line. I remember now. Ryder expresses that they are tired of dying. They don't want to do it again.
Yeah, fair.
This feels like the kind of thing that Sam should be able to do easily, though. Like, for the amount of control that Sam has over, like, your endocrine and electrical impulses to be able to, like, control your body and give you the boosts that Sam does for, like, all of your different profiles, stopping and then restarting your heart should be child's play. Like, at this point, you should have enough trust in Sam, who literally, like, makes your muscles stronger so you punch good. Like, yeah, absolutely. This will take 5 seconds. Like, what am I kvetching about?
I think that it's hard to let something kill you, even if you know that they're going to bring you back, that this will likely be a success. I think it's just hard to make that decision.
I mean, that's fair. I'm not actually in that. I'm just like, yeah, this is what my character would do. Absolutely. Like, yes. Yes, in a second. Reckless do-goodingness.
The moment is really tense because even though you're revived really quickly, it just feels like a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like on a meta level, we know you're not going to die here. You can't die here. Like, there's so much more game left. But like,
plot twist, you do die, and then you start playing as your twin.
Right. But like, the moment is tense. And like, what I love about here is, I don't know who it was for you, but for me, like, Cora was not pleased with this decision. And then when you're on the ground, Cora continues to escalate. Sam.
For me, it was Vetra. Jal was like, "It was a pleasure to know you."
Yeah, Jal said that to me too. It was like, thanks. Not helping.
Thank you for respecting my decision, I guess.
There's no way Jarl's gonna like not respect your decision. This is like the Angara type decision that would easily be made. Jarl wouldn't have hesitated to let someone stop his heart if it meant someone else getting to shoot the Archon.
That's true. As we progress, we do stumble upon one of Drax's missing scouts and what happened to them.
Yep, it is very much looks like it has been exalted, or some version of exaltation. I looked at that and went, you are foreshadowing in a tank. And I will be correct in just a few moments. But like I looked at that and went, there's no, I've played too many video games. If you see a big scary thing floating in a tank, I know I'm going to fight it in 10 minutes. That's just how video games work.
Yeah. Once we get into the Archon's inner sanctum, there are a lot of remnant pieces throughout the room, and every time you scan them, Sam is just like, this is junk. This is broken.
The Archon is clearly just collecting every single fancy-looking piece of rem tech he can get his hands on, because some part of it is going to unlock the secrets of, like, the Tower of Babel or something.
What makes it funny to me is it reminds me of a scene in Animorphs where humans discover some alien tech, and the Animorphs have to, like, break into a government facility to find it and maybe destroy it, so that way they don't find out about aliens or they don't get targeted by Yeerks or something. And when they get there, their Andalite companion is like, oh, we don't need to worry about this. This is a toilet. They're not going to get anything out of this.
Yeah. This idea that alien tech is precious no matter what it is, when it could just be a common item to those people you are taking it from.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just because it's unknown to you doesn't mean it's important.
It's true.
When we do find Meridian, which, surprise, surprise, is the focal point of the room.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Come on, y'all.
It's not exactly hidden.
BioWare did such a good job with this in the Kasumi mission.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because the gray box, like, in this room of, like, a literal ogre from Dragon Age and, like, part of the Statue of Liberty and beautiful giant vases, the gray box is just a thing.
Yeah.
And, like, it's easy to find because, like, you have, like, the like, you know, locator thing, and it's right by some very conveniently placed awesome guns. But, like, it's not the focal point of the room. It's just a thing on a pedestal. But this is, like, right in the back, right in the center. Clearly what we're looking for.
Yeah.
And once we scan it, once we interact with it, we figure out that the Meridian relic is a map to actual Meridian.
Yes.
It's very Titan AE of them.
Yes.
I love that comparison.
That's actually
because it's
very
true.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it. But unfortunately, this means that the Archon knows about Sam.
Yep. The thing he injected us with allowed him to figure out how we interacted with all of this technology. And it is, of course, with the use of Sam, which, you know, not great that our greatest enemy knows that we have a super intelligent AI helping us complete our mission.
Yeah, and part of why the Archon was able to figure that out is because Sam had killed you, and the Sam link was still open while you were dead, allowing the biotransmitter to interface more with Sam and pick out pieces of your memory.
Yep.
No bueno.
Goddamn it, Sam should have just left us there.
So once we get this information and we're confronted by the Archon and he tells us that we're not actually special and whatever, he's basically a real dick to us.
Everything special about you came out of a bottle, Rogers.
Okay, thank you. Pat, pat.
Just hate Iron Man.
I know you do. We tell Reika to trigger the EMP.
Yep.
Which we didn't really talk about. There was a plan.
Oh, yeah.
To plant an EMP.
Oh yeah, BT dubs, guys. There's an EMP. We're gonna shut it all down. No.
It just didn't feel relevant.
I mean, it's so the reason the Ark can't just get away is because there are giant cannons on the Ket ship pointing at it. And so a plan was devised to set off an EMP to give both the Tempest and the Ark time to get away while they're resetting their system.
Unfortunately for us, though, when we have that EMP triggered, it frees the beefy boy.
It did.
Yeah.
So now we have to fight an exalted Krogan.
Yeah, that was fun, terrifying.
I think they call it the Behemoth.
They do.
I think you're right.
In game, which y'all could have done better on that, BioWare. That was
It's just, I think
very,
eight things have been the behemoth in
it's just
BioWare.
very unimaginative to call the big bruiser a behemoth. Like, okay.
Personally, I don't care. I thought it was fine.
But we fight him. It's a boss fight. Pretty intense. We're fighting other Ket at the same time, but the combat is set up in a way in this game that if you know what you're doing, you can kind of avoid him and survive pretty easily. But after we kill him, we find out that the rest of Drax's scouts are on this ship.
And scheduled for exaltation.
Yes. And we realize that we should probably go rescue them. However, we also in that moment then find out that Reka is pinned down and cannot escape. And we have to make the choice to save Reka or save the scouts.
This very much feels like they're trying to recreate the tension of saving Admiral Chorus from 3, which was a very tense moment. But I personally found this to be an easy decision to make.
This one was tough for me just because, like, Reka exuded so much hope in that moment. And, like, I know being a Pathfinder and having it passed to me, I know if Reka doesn't make it, there are others in a line to receive that duty and who can do the work. But I got so much hope in such a short time from Reka that I was like, she feels important. That said, also, I do not want more people to get exalted. Like, it's just so awful. And we also promised Grandpa we'd save his buds if we could. I put pressure on myself for this decision that might not have been there.
I brought Drac with me when I did this mission, and it was years and years ago, but, like, I remember the conversation more or less with Drac in this moment, and, like, he didn't really give you much of a choice of, because Drac would have been, like, very, very angry with you in this moment, and I'm pretty sure would have left the party, like, if you had not. Also, like, I am a little prejudiced against the Solarians, mostly because of the fact that they committed genocide twice, and then wanted me to do it a third time. Actually, no, sorry, they did it 3 times and wanted me to do it a 4th time.
Is this decision hard for you, Frankie, as well?
So there are a couple of factors at play, right? You mentioned that we promised Drac that we would save his scouts if we ever come across them. Then we have Reka, who does not expect us to come rescue her. She signs off very clearly, like, this is going to be it for me. Good luck on your mission. And then just signs off. And we're left with this choice. And it was hard because Reka is an excellent leader, and I think that she would take care of her people and help them find their home. But like you said, I don't want more people to get exalted. I don't want one of my crewmates to suffer because of that. I think it's going to make things harder for us in the long run, because then they have the knowledge of how to exalt Krogan. Yeah. And, like, by saving the Krogan, we are robbing the Ket of a weapon, so to speak. So I chose to save the Krogan scouts.
I also chose saving the Krogan scouts.
Yeah, same. It's just a Krogan on its own is scary enough. Like, they became less scary as time went on in 2 and 3 because, like, we got super overpowered and they added in, like, more fire powers, which sort of, like, stopped their regeneration, them in the Vorcha. But, like, the Krogan they literally survive on a nuclear wasteland toxic planet that makes Australia look like a kid's park. And, like, you know, fight Thresher Maws just for funsies. And then, like, that, but give them bone armor and, like, the mindset of white supremacists. Hey, no thanks. Yeah. I don't want that.
Yeah, I was bummed to lose Reka because she seemed like a character I was really going to enjoy working with. I was comforted, you know, once we make that choice and we rescue the scouts, we do meet her next in line, who I also feel like will do a good job. But her next in line is in a very similar position to us. Untrained, doesn't have the experience, but at least someone we can relate to.
I think having a new Pathfinder in this role is, in a way, one of the more interesting outcomes. Yeah. Because it's a new beginning, it's a fresh start, and Andromeda is full of surprises. Like, you can't control what's going to happen. So we are saying goodbye to Hager, who is now the new Pathfinder, and Drac comes in to be Drac. And I am glad that he appreciates what a difficult decision it was to make, but he then tells us, like, focus on what went right.
Yeah.
Which is a much better way of saying, like, you did the right thing.
Yeah.
It's something good came out of that decision, so focus on that.
Yeah. I mean, I continue to love my Krogan grandpa, and, like, I wrote that line down, and I don't often write quotes down because with the imposter syndrome we were talking about before, it's very easy to look at the tough decisions and go, well, I screwed up. All of this went wrong. But Drac is right. Focus on the thing that went right. You got the information you needed, and you saved these scouts. You stopped their exaltation.
It's a very Drac, and I think very inherently, like, it's something that Rex would have said to us, too. And, like, it makes sense considering that, like, Drac lived through the Rachni Wars and the Krogan rebellions and the entire rise and fall of his people. And so most of his life is the stuff that went wrong. So the fact that he's like, focus on the things that went right makes a lot of sense for Drac's character. It's a good line for them to have given him.
Yeah, especially when one of the things that went right for Drac is Kesh.
Yeah. Also, now Drac has to live through like all of the Krogan leaving the Nexus to go form their own planet because everything went wrong again.
Yeah. From there, we get a final little cutscene between the Archon and the Primus.
Yeah.
And remember back on Vold where we got a little taste of dissension in the ranks?
Yeah. So here it's full blown proven that the Primus does not agree with the Archon. The Archon wants to the purpose of the Ket is to conquer and convert so they can survive. That is their purpose. But the Archon wants to control the Remtech and is obsessed with it because the Archon believes that that is the best way to get to that ultimate end goal, is this technology and this ability to essentially terraform planets will make their job easier. And it's clear that the Primus does not agree, and that the Ket on the Broad do not agree as well. He seems sort of like an out of left field leader amongst their ranks.
Yeah. He's getting in trouble with the big leadership.
This scene, and this is another one of the reasons why I picked this mission, is because I love this moment here, getting to finally see, because like fantasy and sci-fi things, and Frankie and I talked about this off mic a little bit, they have a tendency of creating monocultures, where like all like goblins are inherently evil, or like the drow are all inherently like, one. But like now we finally get to see some differences amongst the Ket and like some differing values. And like, yeah, they all clearly still want exaltation, but like the Archon's priorities are weird. And the Archon sort of wing of the Ket are very much the Hydra of the Ket's Nazis.
Yeah.
Right? Because instead of like going for that Lebensraum and like creating like this new ethnically like Ket people, he's out there looking for the weird magic box that's going to lead him to Odin.
Yeah, for sure. That's actually a really good comparison.
That is.
ADHD brain. Everything gets a comparison. Otherwise, I will forget it.
And as we close, we realize as the player that the Archon has some of Ryder's memories.
Yeah, which is not good. And I'm curious to see where this goes. I really still don't know quite where this plot is headed. And so, like, I've enjoyed the Star Trek-iness of it all, and it still feels that way.
You even have the Prime Directive.
Yeah, you do.
More or less.
More or less.
First Contact Protocol is, hey, just chill and don't. How about you just don't? Which is very different from First Contact Protocol from Mass Effect 1, which was assume hostility.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that is it for that mission. We can now move on to advice for New Galaxy. And honestly, Matt, I've given you as much like mechanic advice as I possibly can.
Okay.
So now I think we're moving on to giving you cryptic hints.
Yes.
Great. Excellent. Love that. For me.
My favorite type of advice, the kind of ones that you'd see as like portents or omens that are written in the entrails of crows. I'm going to give you an augury, Matt. Just like the spell from D&D, wheel is good, woe is bad. Now just trust Jal is always the best advice. I mean, just trust your party members really is like great more general advice, except for Liam. Don't trust Liam, do trust Jal.
Okay. Noted.
My advice for you is don't try to fight the worm.
Okay,
Don't do it.
Great. Noted.
Just don't do it.
Okay.
You'll regret it.
Fine.
These things all make sense to people who have played this game before.
So our listeners will enjoy it, which is fine.
Yeah.
Josh is loving this right now.
All right, moving on. It's time for the Andromeda Ask Me. Yay! John, pick a character.
Suvi.
Suvi. Have you ever had a moment of clear faith? Whatever that means to you. It doesn't have to be religious.
I mean, yeah, more or less. Like, it's the Mr. Rogers thing, right? Always look for the helpers. Like, I study genocide for a living. Having faith in things is a weird sort of conversation to have with myself. But, like, there are always people trying to stop the bad things, right? And so that is always comforting. It's just the bad things are louder.
How about you, Matt?
I mean, my faith is in specific people. And even that is tough, as we've learned over the years. Like, I've hit a point where I kind of just assume every celebrity is secretly terrible, even the ones I really like, because that tends to be the case. But, like, there are individuals in my life that I have faith in. I have faith in you, Frankie, my co-host. You've been...
I don't know why.
You've been a big help, especially in the last few months with stuff with my apartment and just like helping take the lead on stuff. And so I put faith in those kinds of people. I, of course, have great faith in my incredible spouse, who has helped us to get through some of the harder stuff during COVID and things like that. It's complicated for me because I'm Jewish, and that's not what makes it complicated. There are plenty of Jews who it's not complicated for. But for me, I still don't believe that there's a deity in the sky looking down upon us and deciding and all of that stuff. But I do believe in the Jewish people, especially within my smaller community of Jewish people, and like going to temple together. I find faith in the comfort of the songs we sing. And though the prayer, I don't feel like I'm directly praying to anyone in particular. Like, if there is a God, great, good for them, I guess. I care more about the people and the traditions. And there's a lot of faith in those traditions. When I get together with my family for the holidays, I have faith in our traditions and our ability to take care of each other and love each other more than the religious faith in a God, if there is one, which I don't believe there is, at least at this point in my life. Who knows? That can change. I've seen it change in people, but currently I don't buy into that whole thing. But the groovy stuff on the outsides of it, I still enjoy.
Way to say yes, but no, but sometimes yes.
I mean, that's on brand for me. So what about you, Frankie?
I think my clearest moment of faith actually has to do with John. When we kind of like restarted our relationship shortly after my dad passed away. And it was a rough time because there are a lot of complicated emotions in a parent passing away, whether you had a good relationship with them or a bad relationship. So with my family coming in, John and I had not been calling each other like boyfriend and girlfriend at that time, but I did not want to have to explain our relationship to my family. So we decided for that period we were going to use those terms. And during that time, John showed up for me very consistently. And by the time it was all over, we reevaluated and we had decided, no, those terms felt right to both of us. And through it all, my moment of clear faith was faith in John to always be there for me no matter what. At the end of all things, John's going to be standing there next to me.
Aww.
Aww, it's so gay.
I'm but a poor, simple himbo.
It's true.
So that was my clear moment of faith.
All right. Well, with all of that cheesy emotional stuff out of the way, in our next episode, we're headed back to Kadara to do the old side quest run. We're going to try and settle an outpost. You know, we're going to run through and try and make friends, even though Sloan and anyone who works for Sloan absolutely hates our guts because we have not been cooperative, let's say.
Hey, maybe we'll be lucky and the charlatan will like us.
Who's the charlatan?
The charlatan is the other political power on Kadara.
That's right.
You hear about him from other people.
Yeah. So anyway, before we get to wrapping up the show, John, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for coming back.
Yeah, it's always great to come on and get to talk about my very favorite video game franchise with two of my very favorite people.
Aw. You can bet your ass that at the end of the season, somehow, some way, John will be back to guide us through the world of the greatest specter to ever live in some shape or form.
Absolutely. We've got a murder mystery to do.
But until that time comes. John, why don't you tell folks where they can find you and all the stuff that you do?
Absolutely. So you can almost exclusively find me on TikTok these days. I used to have a bunch more stuff. Like I had a WordPress at one point, and I had like a Facebook page, and I technically have an Instagram that I mostly just repost TikToks from. So find me on TikTok at The History Wizard, where I shout about history stuff.
If you like what you heard here, follow us on social media. We're at ReignitePod on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook.com/ReignitePod, or you can send us an email at reignitepod@gmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at iHoardLibraries and Matt at DJ_Stormageddon. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcatcher. It helps us get seen so other people can find us.
We're also members of the Certain Point of View podcast network. You can visit certainpov.com to find more nerdy podcasts, each with a unique point of view. You can also find a permanent invite link to our Discord server and join in the conversation. We are still constantly talking about Mass Effect video games, TV, movies. I've been raving about the sequel to the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, conveniently named Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and it's great. But you can jump on in there and interact with us. We check quite regularly about all sorts of cool stuff.
If you're enjoying our Andromeda shenanigans here, then you should definitely catch me and John over on Archives of the Dragon every other Monday, where John leads us through the wild unknown outside the Helios cluster in Andromeda. You can find that at twitch.tv/Arc of the Dragon.
You can find me at djstormageddon.com. It's where you can get my Ko-fi, my Twitch, pretty much all the podcasts that I do, both host and edit. I have not been streaming lately, but I'm hoping to jump back into Twitch real soon, maybe stream some Kirby or some other stuff. So if you're not already following me over at DJ_Stormageddon on Twitch, please go check that out.
We'd like to thank Red Spinks for our It's Okay to Be a Marshmallow t-shirt on Redbubble, featuring our favorite marshmallow Caden Alenko. You can find more of his work at Chaos Does Art on Instagram.
We'd also like to thank the incredible Carter's husband for developing more amazing t-shirt designs for us. You can find them at certainpov.com or on the Certain POV Teespring.
Thank you to David Boyle for redesigning our logo like a champ. And also, thank you to JT Music and Andrea Storm-Caden for our new theme music. I'm Frankie.
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
And I'm John. Good luck, Pathfinders.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun, whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.